Hi, I'm Marty West, an executive editor at Education Next, and I'm here today with Matt Chingos of the Mellon Foundation and a co-author of Crossing the Finish Line, a new book out that tries to look at graduation rates across America's public universities. Matt, you focus a lot on explaining graduation rates in this book. Why is that the right indicator to be looking at when we're studying American higher education?
Well, first of all, not just starting college, but finishing college and earning a college degree, particularly a bachelor's degree, is what really confers the greatest economic benefits. So it's a primary indicator for that reason, and also because it's the easiest metric that can be compared across universities. We find it varies quite a bit across universities.
Okay, so different universities do a better job of ensuring that their students complete college. Which universities stand out?
We find that more selective universities tend to do, even comparing students with the same entering credentials, they did the same test scores, same grades in high school. If they go to a more selective university, a university that's harder to get into, or students where their peers have better entering credentials themselves, they're more likely to graduate at those places.
Even though we think that those schools may even be more demanding in some ways, they also see that their students do a better job of completing a degree.
Those demands and those high expectations actually increase the odds of graduating, they don't decrease them.
Now, one of the terms you all coin in this book, I believe, is a term called undermatching. Can you tell us what you mean by that and where it comes from?
So by undermatching, we mean in the process where students decide where to go to college, a large number of students, and particularly predominantly students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, are even the ones that did well in high school, they got good grades, good test scores, they don't even apply to selective universities. That would almost definitely admit them.
So your data on this come from North Carolina? Can you say a little more about that?
We have an extensive database. We have every single high school senior in North Carolina in 1999. So we know if they took the SAT, we know their test scores, we know their high school grades, and then we look at where they went to school. And we find that there's among the students that had at least a 90% chance of being admitted to one of the most selective public universities in that state.
So they're you're sure that they would have gotten into North Carolina, the University of North Carolina, had they applied?
Right, they would have gotten into UNC Chapel Hill or NC State, two of the most selective universities in that state. We're sure they would have gotten in, but a large number of them don't go, and most of those, the reason they don't go is they don't even apply. And that's much more common among students from low-income families and families where the parents didn't have college degrees themselves.
Now, the real bombshell finding in this book that's receiving a lot of attention has to do with the SAT. You find out that the SAT turns out not to be a very good predictor of how likely students are to complete college.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we look at a wide range of public universities, and at the vast majority of them, the SAT and the ACT have very little, if any, power to predict graduation rates, and high school grades actually are a much, much stronger predictor.
That's interesting because we typically dismiss the value of high school grades thinking that they mean one thing in one school and quite another in another school. Why do you think they turn out to be useful in this context?
Well, we think they measure not just cognitive abilities, but they also measure non-cognitive abilities, like just students, do they show up? Do they hand in their homework? Do they do the things you have to do to get good grades in high school? And it's not just being smart, but it measures sort of these qualities of persistence and perseverance that probably have a lot to do with whether you've finished a program of study in college.
Now, are there exceptions to this finding, places where the SAT or the ACT does seem to tell you a bit about how a student's likely to do?
Sure. At the most selective public universities, we find that SAT and ACT scores do have some power to predict graduation rates, and they're also pretty good at predicting college grades. And if everyone's graduating, as almost everyone does graduate at these most selective universities, you should really care about those college grades. But at the less selective universities, which are more sort of representative of higher education in America, only half the kids are graduating. So you really should care about those graduation rates.
And that's interesting because a lot of the policymakers, a lot of the academics who study these issues actually spend a lot of time in exactly those environments, the selective schools, and maybe their impressions based on what they see among the students that they work with and the value of SAT scores and anticipating success there may be misleading when it comes to American higher education more generally.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly very plausible, and I think a lot of it goes back to the history of the SAT. The SAT was designed at the behest of President Conant of Harvard in the 1920s, and he wanted to identify the kids in the middle of nowhere who would perform brilliantly at Harvard. And the SAT is not so bad at identifying kids who perform brilliant at Harvard, but it's sort of been overused and expanded to these universities where we now find it's not as useful.
Well, thanks for spending time with us today, and congratulations on a great new piece of work.
Thank you.